This pasta is so sweet and creamy, and it really will blow your mind. Made with roasted cherry tomatoes and burrata cheese, it is heaven. So let's do it. Turn on your oven and preheat it to 180 degrees. The first thing we're going to need for this recipe is some onion. So take your onion, chop it in half, nip off the ends, remove the skins, and you want to dice up your onion nice and chunky. You want your onion nice and chunky because we're going to be roasting it off for about 40 to 45 minutes. Once your onion is ready, we're going to want a bulb of garlic. For one onion, you want about 4 cloves of your garlic, and all we're going to do is just nip off the little end bit from the garlic, but don't remove the skins at this point. We don't want the garlic to burn while it roasts in the oven. Pop your garlic to one side with the onion, and then you want to stick a high-walled frying pan onto the hob and turn the heat up high. Add a nice generous splash of olive oil to the pan, and first up you want to chuck in your chunky pieces of onion. Season the onion immediately with some sea salt and black pepper, and then we're going to need some lovely cherry tomatoes. Chuck your cherry tomatoes into the pan with your onion. Make sure the heat is high. We want to roast these off a touch before we pop them in the oven. Give them a stir through, coat them in all of that lovely olive oil, and then lastly you want to chuck in your cloves of garlic. Stir it all through, and then you want to pop this into your preheated oven, and we want to roast off the tomatoes for a good 45 minutes or so. You want the onions to be beautifully caramelized. We want the garlic nice and soft, and the tomatoes beautifully roasted and sweet. So after about 45 minutes, take your saucepan out of the oven, and we just want to return it to the hob on a nice high heat. Once your tomatoes are back on the hob, just spend a minute to remove the skins from the garlic. And very quickly, if you can just give the video a thumbs up by hitting the like button below. Next up, we need some white wine. Deglaze the roasted tomatoes with a fairly generous amount of your white wine, and then spend a few minutes to reduce that down until we've got a nice thick sticky syrup. Once the wine is lovely reduced, turn off the heat, and I generally like to let that cool down for about 10 minutes before we blend everything. So next you want to take a blender and start by popping in your tomatoes, your onion and your garlic. And next up we're going to want some beautiful creamy burrata cheese. Chuck your burrata into the blender, and so we get a nice glossy sauce. You just want to go in with a few tablespoons of some olive oil. Don't season at this point, but do give everything a good blitzing up in the blender for a couple of minutes. Once the sauce is getting nice and smooth, give it a stir and give it a quick taste for seasoning. Chuck in a nice pinch of sea salt and some freshly ground black pepper. Pop the lid back on, and then spend a few minutes to make sure the sauce is blended up so it's really nice and smooth. It will be beautifully thick and gloopy. This is just what we want. Once your sauce is ready, pour that out into a bowl and stick that to one side while we cook our pasta. Today I'm going to use some lovely tagliatelle. So pop a saucepan onto the hob, pour in some water, turn the heat up high, and then very generously season your pasta water. We want it as salty as the sea. So chuck your tagliatelle into the water, and we want it to be nice and al dente, so cook it about 2 minutes less than it says on the packet. Taste your tagliatelle to make sure it's good, and then very quickly pop that to one side and pop another frying pan onto the hob. Chuck your tagliatelle into the frying pan, and then go in with a nice few blobs of your tomato and burrata sauce. Give that a really good stir through. See how it's looking. You can always add more sauce. Add a splash of your pasta water, and then if you need to, add another few blobs of your tomato and burrata sauce. Toss the sauce and the pasta together so the tagliatelle is beautifully coated in that delicious creamy sauce. And then pop your pasta onto a plate, and we want to finish with some lovely fresh basil. So take some lovely basil leaves, roll them up together, and then dice your way through the basil. Scatter the basil over your pasta, and then we want to finish this one off with some lovely grated Parmesan cheese. Be as generous as you want with your Parmesan, and there we have a little known but beautifully sweet and creamy delicious pasta. And I'll see you next time.